right, let's jump into this deep dive. We've got a fascinating collection of interviews here. Folks who are absolutely crushing it in STEM fields, future doctors, an engineer who became an entrepreneur, even a law student who aced the LSAT thanks to some seriously intense training. It's amazing to see these diverse paths to success. What do you think? Ready to see what we can learn from their experiences?
Yeah, it's incredible. The diversity is striking, not just in their careers, but also in their approaches to learning and problem solving. I think we can definitely extract some valuable insights about thriving in STEM, especially for those who might not fit that stereotypical image of a, science genius.
Yeah, exactly. I think one thing that pops up over and over again in these interviews is the importance of mentorship. Not just finding any mentor, but finding the right one.
Oh, for sure. It's not about, snagging someone super famous or high up. It's about finding someone who truly understands you, your goals, your challenges, someone who's willing to give you honest feedback, even if it's, tough to hear.
Totally. It's like having someone who's been there, done that, and can offer guidance based on their own experiences.
Precisely. You can't just passively wait for a mentor to magically appear. You have to actively seek them out, be open to criticism, and most importantly, put in the work to improve. It's a two-way street, a relationship where both sides are invested in your growth.
Speaking of putting in the work, one of the interviews that really stuck with me was that law student at Howard. His professor was ridiculously meticulous about writing, even down to the spacing after periods. But he says that's exactly what helped him crush the LSAT and get into law school.
Right. It's a perfect illustration of pushing past your comfort zone and embracing those high standards. And we see
Yeah.
that same dedication reflected in a lot of these interviews.
Totally. The student athletes, for example, they were all about seeking advice from coaches and former players. That anesthesiology resident, he found incredible mentors within his residency program.
And let's not forget that engineer turned entrepreneur, he really emphasized finding mentors who had walked a similar path, who had faced those same entrepreneurial challenges. It's invaluable to have someone who can share those insights, who's been there and done that.
Absolutely. It's like having a roadmap helping you avoid those potholes that others have already encountered. Now, another thing that really stood out to me is that book smarts alone aren't enough to succeed in STEM.
Oh, absolutely. These interviews are filled with examples of creative problem solving, of thinking outside the box, especially when traditional methods just don't cut it.
I love that story about the MD PhD student who learns best visually. He uses diagrams and pictures to memorize complex medical conditions. It's like he's creating his own visual language for understanding the human body.
That's brilliant. And it speaks to a crucial quality for STEM success. Adaptability. The scientific world is always evolving, so you need to be comfortable with ambiguity, willing to experiment with different approaches, and able to learn from your mistakes.
Speaking of mistakes, I think this next part is where things get really interesting. These are all super high achievers, right?
Yeah.
But they're so refreshingly honest about the struggles they've faced.
Right. It's so important to hear that. Imposter syndrome, isolation, feeling overwhelmed by information overload, they've been through it all.
But what sets them apart is their resilience. They didn't let those challenges define them. They found ways to bounce back, learn from those experiences, and keep moving forward.
Exactly. It completely shatters that myth that you have to be some sort of genius to thrive in STEM. It's about hard work, dedication, and that ability to pick yourself up after setbacks.
And a lot of it comes down to passion too, right? These individuals have a genuine love for their fields, and that passion fueled their persistence. It helped them push through those tough times.
Oh, absolutely. Having that fire in your belly, that deep-seated passion for what you're doing, that's what keeps you going when things get tough. And that's a theme we see woven throughout these interviews.
And you know what else I found really inspiring? Their emphasis on community and building a strong support system.
That's huge. It's not just about mentors. It's about peers, friends, family. Those people who believe in you, who challenge you, and who keep you grounded.
Like that medical student at Augusta. She talked about how her classmates created this amazing sense of collective support, helping each other get through the tough times.
That's so powerful. In fields that can be demanding and isolating, having that network of people who understand your struggles, celebrate your successes, and just make you feel like you belong, it can make all the difference in the world.
And that feeling of belonging, of being part of something bigger than yourself, is what makes the journey so much more meaningful, right?
Absolutely. It fosters a culture of collaboration and mutual support, which is essential for innovation and growth. It's about recognizing that we don't have to go it alone, that we're stronger together.
It's a beautiful reminder that success is not just about individual achievement. It's about collective effort, shared learning, and mutual support. And that's a message that resonates far beyond the realm of STEM. It's applicable to any field, any endeavor where people are striving to achieve their full potential.
I couldn't agree more. It's about building a community that fosters growth, encourages innovation, and celebrates the collective journey. And that's a message we can all take to heart. Picking up on that idea of community, I found it really interesting how many of these folks talked about their early experiences with STEM. It wasn't always like a direct line from their childhood dreams to their current careers, but you can see how those early exposures really planted some seeds.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm thinking about that MD PhD student, the one who went to all those science-focused summer camps in middle school. It's amazing to think that sparking that fascination with neuroscience way back then could lead him to where he is today.
It really is. And it makes you wonder what kind of ripple effects those early experiences can have. Remember the anesthesiology resident, the one who was completely obsessed with football? Years later, that passion led him to researching concussions, that intersection of sports and medicine.
It's fascinating how things connect like that, like those early interests. Even if they seem totally unrelated to a future career, they can light a fire for learning, open up a whole world of possibilities.
Absolutely. And that brings up an interesting question. How can we encourage more of those early STEM experiences for kids?
Exactly. If we want to see more people thriving in these fields, we need to nurture that curiosity from a young age, right?
I think so. It's about showing young people how science and tech are actually used in the real world, making it relevant to their lives. And sometimes those paths take really unexpected turns, which is fine. We heard from an entrepreneur who started out thinking he was destined for a classic engineering career.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
But then a co-op experience totally changed his perspective.
Right. It made him realize that a typical engineering job wasn't the right fit for him. He needed more freedom, more room for that creative energy.
Exactly. And I think that's such an important message. It's okay to realize something's not the right fit. It's okay to discover new passions and create a path that's truly your own. We don't have to be locked into one track forever.
I love that. It's like those winding roads. You never know what amazing view or hidden gem you'll discover along the way. Careers aren't meant to be linear. There are going to be detours, unexpected opportunities, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Those detours can lead us to destinations we never could have imagined. Speaking of which, remember the law student who discovered his true calling in a particular class? It wasn't just the subject matter. It was the professor who really pushed him to think critically, to build those rock-solid arguments and those skills. He's using them every single day now.
Yeah, that's the mark of a truly great teacher. Someone who doesn't just fill your head with facts, but teaches you how to think, how to approach any problem with a sharp mind.
It really is. It makes you think about how the most valuable lessons aren't always found in textbooks. It's about those challenging experiences, seeking out different opinions, being open to learning from anyone, regardless of their title or position.
Totally. And this next theme, this one really hit home for me. All of these folks we've talked about, they're high achievers, no doubt. But they also talked about this delicate balance between confidence and humility. Like, they acknowledged their limits, they sought out guidance, they emphasized that learning never stops.
Oh, for sure. It's this beautiful paradox, isn't it? To be confident in your abilities, but also humble enough to recognize there's always more to learn.
Exactly. It's like that anesthesiology resident. He's incredibly accomplished, but he still stressed the importance of continuous learning, of constantly improving his skills and learning from his mistakes.
Right. And I think it's so refreshing to hear that. We often focus on the success stories without acknowledging all the stumbles and setbacks along the way.
I know. It's reassuring to hear these folks being so open about their own growth process, their own journeys of learning and improvement.
That vulnerability is so powerful. And it goes hand in hand with what that MD PhD student said about asking questions, even the dumb ones, and being okay with not knowing everything.
It makes sense, right? In a field that's constantly evolving, you can't be afraid to admit when you don't know something. It's about being curious, being willing to learn and grow.
Exactly. That blend of confidence and humility, that's like the secret sauce for navigating STEM and really any field where continuous learning is key.
Totally. Believe in yourself, but also be open to collaboration, feedback, and that constant process of learning and improvement.
Yeah.
Now, this next part is where things get really exciting, at least for me. We heard a lot about finding your own style of learning and problem solving.
Ah, yes. That was a recurring theme, wasn't it? It wasn't about fitting into a mold or following a set formula. It was about discovering what works best for you.
Yeah, embracing your own unique strengths, and figuring out how you learn and process information most effectively.
It's about acknowledging that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to success. It's about finding what clicks for you, what helps you unlock your potential.
It's like that MD PhD student who uses those visual aids to tackle complex medical concepts,
Yeah.
or that entrepreneur who dives deep into numbers and financial data to make those strategic decisions.
They're both brilliant examples of the diversity and how we learn and solve problems. And I think it's a great message, especially for young people who might feel pressured to conform to a certain way of thinking or learning.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that there are multiple paths to success, and it's okay to be different, to find your own way.
It's about playing to your strength, finding those methods that resonate with you, and then using those to achieve your goals.
Now, this next one is something I think about a lot, and I know you do too. The importance of a supportive network, both personally and professionally.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. These folks weren't just talking about mentors, they were talking about surrounding yourself with people who believe in you, who challenge you, and who keep you grounded. That whole support system.
And it's so crucial, especially in fields that can be incredibly demanding and, let's face it, sometimes really stressful. Having that strong network, those people you can lean on, celebrate with, get real with, that's the foundation for resilience. It's what helps you weather those storms.
It makes a world of difference. Remember that story from the medical student at Augusta, the one about how her classmates created this incredible support system, helping each other through all the ups and downs of med school?
Oh, yeah. It's amazing how powerful that collective support can be, especially in those high-pressure environments.
It really is. It fosters collaboration, empathy, that sense of we're all in this together. And I think it's something we can all cultivate, whether it's in our workplaces or communities or even our families. It's about creating that culture of support and encouragement.
And it's not just about receiving that support. It's about actively contributing to that community as well,
Yeah.
right? Being that person who lifts others up, who celebrates their wins, who creates a positive ripple effect.
I love that. It's a pay-it-forward system where we all benefit from each other's support and encouragement. Which brings us to another really important point that came up in a lot of these interviews: embracing challenges as opportunities for growth. These folks didn't see setbacks as roadblocks. They saw them as chances to learn, adapt, and come out stronger on the other side.
It's like that whole growth mindset thing, right? Embracing those challenges as part of the process, not letting them define you.
Exactly. And we saw some amazing examples of that in action. Remember that entrepreneur who couldn't get a traditional loan, so he thought outside the box and borrowed from an auto body shop? He didn't let the system limit him. He found a way to make things happen.
It's incredible, right? That resourcefulness, that ability to adapt and overcome. Or what about that MD PhD student who had to completely rethink his learning style to handle all that information in med school? He didn't let those challenges defeat him. He used them as fuel to grow and improve.
And I think that's such a valuable lesson for all of us. Challenges aren't meant to break us, they're meant to shape us, to help us discover those hidden strengths and abilities we might not even know we have.
I love that. It's about seeing those challenges as stepping stones, each one pushing us closer to our full potential.
Exactly. And along those lines, another theme that really stood out to me was this idea of staying true to yourself, even when faced with pressure to conform. It's about having the courage to forge your own path, even if it means taking risks or going against the grain.
It's about not being afraid to be different, to stand out, to pursue what you truly believe in, even if it's not the traditional path. Like that CEO who walked away from a comfortable corporate job to build something that's truly aligned with his values, right?
Yeah. Or that MD PhD student who followed his passion for neuroscience, even though it meant a longer, more challenging educational journey.
It's about knowing your values, your passions, your strengths, and then having the guts to follow them, even if it means stepping off that well-worn path.
And sometimes those less traveled paths, those are the ones that lead to the most remarkable discoveries and breakthroughs, you know?
You know what else really struck me? That interview with the marketing guru who stressed the importance of data and technology, even in fields that might seem offline, like that restaurant example he gave.
Oh, yeah. He was talking about how even a traditional brick and mortar business can leverage data and tech to streamline operations and connect with customers in new ways.
It's amazing, right? Like, he told this story about a restaurant that uses a simple contest to collect customer information, and then they use that data to send targeted text messages about special offers or promotions.
It's brilliant. They're using those messages to fill empty tables each night. Such a simple concept, but it's so effective.
And it's a great reminder that technology is constantly evolving, and those who embrace it, who find creative ways to use it to their advantage, those are the ones who are going to thrive.
Exactly. It's about staying curious, experimenting with new tools, and constantly looking for those innovative solutions.
Okay, back to mentorship for a minute. We heard so much about the importance of finding the right mentors, those individuals who truly get you, who offer honest feedback, and who are genuinely invested in your growth. And it wasn't just about finding someone famous or high up in your field.
Right. It was about that genuine connection, that shared understanding and respect.
Like that law student who credits his professor's tough but fair feedback with helping him get into law school.
Yeah.
Or that anesthesiology resident who found mentors within his residency program who provided invaluable support and guidance as he navigated all those challenges.
Those relationships really highlight the power of mentorship. It's about actively seeking out those individuals who've walked a similar path, building rapport, and being open to learning from their experiences.
It's a good reminder that mentors can come from all sorts of places too, right? Professors, colleagues, people you meet through networking events, even online communities.
It's about recognizing that valuable guidance and support can come from unexpected sources.
Totally. And another thing that came up a lot was the importance of being proactive, of taking initiative and creating your own opportunities rather than waiting for them to just magically fall into your lap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about having that agency, that drive to make things happen. Like that CEO who took a leap and started his own company after realizing he wasn't fulfilled in his corporate job.
Right. Or that MD, PhD student who actively sought out those research opportunities to deepen his understanding of neuroscience.
Those are great examples. They didn't wait for someone to hand them an opportunity, they went out and created their own. And I think that's such an empowering message, especially for young people who might feel they have to wait their turn or follow a set path.
It's about recognizing that you have the power to shape your own career, to build the future you want. And sometimes that means taking risks, stepping outside your comfort zone, and blazing your own trail.
Exactly. Now, I want to touch on something else that really resonated with me. That story from the student athlete who talked about the challenges of balancing academics and athletics. He learned so much about time management, discipline, and perseverance. Those skills are valuable in any field, really.
Absolutely. It's amazing how those skills learned in one area of life can transfer to others.
Right. And he emphasized the importance of having that strong support system, both from his family and coaches, to help him navigate the challenges and stay motivated.
I think that highlights how interconnected our lives are, how success in one area often depends on that support and encouragement from others.
We don't achieve anything in isolation. We need people who believe in us, who challenge us, and who help us reach our full potential. And that support can come from all sorts of places: family, friends, mentors, teachers, coaches.
It's about building that network of support and recognizing that we're all in this together. Now, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about something that really resonated with me. The importance of finding your place, not just in terms of career, but in a broader sense of belonging. Remember that interview with the law student at Howard?
Oh, yeah. He talked about finding that community where he felt truly accepted and valued, a place where he could thrive. It wasn't just about academics, it was about that sense of belonging, that feeling of being part of something bigger than himself.
It was really powerful. He talked about how important it was for him to be in an environment where he could bring his whole self to the table, where his perspective and experiences were valued.
And that sense of belonging can be so empowering, especially for those who might feel marginalized or underrepresented in certain fields. It's about creating spaces where everyone feels welcome, respected, and supported.
I think it's also about aligning your values with your environment, whether it's a school, a workplace, or a community. Finding that place where you feel comfortable being yourself and where your contributions are truly appreciated. It's about finding your tribe.
Exactly. Finding those people who get you, who inspire you, who challenge you to be your best self. Now, I want to touch on something that's really important, especially in today's fast-paced world: the importance of maintaining that healthy work-life balance.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and grind, but neglecting our well-being ultimately leads to burnout. It's not sustainable in the long run.
It's about recognizing that we're not machines. We need time to rest, recover, and engage in those activities that bring us joy and fulfillment outside of work.
It's about finding that balance, that sustainable rhythm that allows us to excel professionally while also nurturing our physical, mental, and emotional health.
Absolutely. Another interview that stuck with me was the one with that anesthesiology resident. He talked about how he prioritizes sleep, exercise, and his hobbies to prevent burnout and maintain that healthy lifestyle.
It's a good reminder that we're not just defined by our jobs or our accomplishments. We have to make time for those things that bring us joy, those things that recharge our batteries and make us feel whole.
It's about taking care of ourselves holistically and recognizing that our well-being is essential for everything else we do in life.
And on that note, I think it's important to acknowledge that information overload is a real challenge, especially in STEM fields where knowledge is constantly expanding. We heard some great strategies for dealing with that, like using visual aids, active recall techniques, and leveraging technology to automate those routine tasks.
Yeah, those are all great tips. It's about being proactive, finding those tools and techniques that work for you, and recognizing that we can't simply absorb everything. We need to develop strategies for filtering, prioritizing, and retaining that essential information.
And it's about being open to experimenting, finding what works best for you, whether it's visual aids, spaced repetition, or those tech tools that streamline your workflow.
Exactly. It's about working smarter, not just harder. Now, another common thread that ran through many of the interviews was this idea of persistence, that ability to keep going even when faced with setbacks or rejection.
It's about not giving up, learning from those challenges, and using those experiences to fuel your growth.
Like that entrepreneur who was so disillusioned with corporate life that he decided to start his own business. Talk about a challenge.
Right. Or what about that MD PhD student who was facing the demands of a dual degree program and had to find ways to stay focused and motivated? They both faced setbacks, but they didn't let those define them. They used those experiences as opportunities to learn and grow.
And that's what separates those who achieve their goals from those who don't. It's that resilience, that grit, that determination to keep going, even when things get tough.
It's about having that belief in yourself, that inner drive that pushes you to keep striving, even when the going gets rough. Now, on a slightly different note, I found it really inspiring how many of these folks talked about finding inspiration from others, whether it was mentors, historical figures, or even their own peers.
Yeah, me too. Like that MD PhD student who drew inspiration from those pioneering scientists and mathematicians who came before him, or that anesthesiology resident who was motivated by that opportunity to directly impact patient care and make a real difference in people's lives.
It's powerful stuff. It shows how much we can learn from others, how their stories and experiences can ignite our own passions and fuel our own journeys.
And it reminds us that we're all part of a larger community, that we can draw strength and motivation from those who have come before us, as well as those who are walking alongside us.
And it's about actively seeking out those sources of inspiration too, right? Reading biographies of those you admire, attending conferences and workshops, connecting with people who are doing amazing things in their fields.
I love that. It's about surrounding yourself with those who inspire you, who challenge you to think bigger, to dream bigger, to achieve more.
Okay, I want to touch on one more really important point. The value of seeking diverse perspectives and challenging those assumptions, both our own and those of others.
Ah, yes. That's crucial. We can learn so much when we step outside of our own echo chambers and expose ourselves to different viewpoints and experiences. Like that law student at Howard who talked about the importance of having that Africana lens and recognizing the contributions of Black individuals, which are often overlooked or minimized in traditional narratives.
And that MD PhD student, he emphasized the importance of asking those good questions, being willing to challenge that conventional wisdom and seeking out those viewpoints that might differ from his own.
I think those examples highlight the importance of intellectual humility, recognizing that we don't have all the answers and that learning from others is essential for growth. It's about being open to new ideas, challenging our biases, and understanding that diversity of thought is so important for innovation.
And it's about being willing to be wrong, to change our minds, to evolve our thinking as we encounter new information and perspectives.
I do. It's about embracing that lifelong journey of learning and growth. Now, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, self-care. In those demanding STEM fields, it's so easy to neglect our own well-being. But we heard over and over again how important it is to prioritize our physical and mental health.
Absolutely. Like that anesthesiology resident who talked about how he makes time for exercise and his hobbies to avoid burnout, or that student athlete who stressed the importance of having a strong support system and seeking help when needed.
Those are great examples of how to take care of yourself, holistically. It's not selfish to prioritize those needs. In fact, it's essential for our well-being and for our ability to show up as our best selves in all areas of our lives.
It's about recognizing that we're not machines. We need time to rest, recharge, and engage in those activities that bring us joy and meaning outside of our work. And sometimes that means setting boundaries, learning to say no, and making time for those things that truly nourish our souls.
So true. We have to remember that our worth isn't tied to our productivity or our achievements. We're valuable just as we are. Now, I want to highlight one more interview that really stood out to me. The one with the entrepreneur who emphasized the importance of authenticity and leading with integrity. Walking the talk and building that trust.
Oh, yeah. He talked about how he prioritizes building genuine relationships with his team members, understanding their motivations, and advocating for their growth. It's not just about giving orders, it's about creating that positive, supportive environment where everyone feels valued and empowered.
It's that true leadership, the kind that inspires and motivates others to do their best work. And it's also about staying true to your own values. Even when faced with those tough decisions or that pressure to compromise, that integrity shines through.
It's about leading by example and building that culture of trust and respect.
Yeah.
And you know what? That resonates far beyond the business world. It's about how we show up in all our relationships, in all areas of our lives.
Absolutely. It's about being authentic, being true to ourselves, and building those connections based on honesty and integrity.
I do. It's a powerful reminder that we can achieve amazing things when we lead with our hearts and stay true to our values.
Now, I want to shift gears for a minute and talk about something that's crucial for success in any field: continuous learning and development.
Yeah. It's about recognizing that expertise is not a destination, it's a journey. And that learning never really stops.
Like that anesthesiology resident, he talked about how he's constantly reading research, attending conferences, and looking for opportunities to expand his knowledge and skills.
And the MD PhD student, he emphasized the importance of asking those challenging questions, challenging those assumptions, constantly seeking those new perspectives.
They both embody that growth mindset, that belief that our abilities aren't fixed, that we can always learn and grow no matter how much we already know. It's about being curious, being open to new experiences, and being willing to step outside of our comfort zones.
I love that.
Yep.
It's about embracing that lifelong journey of learning and recognizing that the most successful people are those who are constantly striving to improve, to learn, to evolve.
Exactly. Now, I want to touch on something that often gets overlooked in discussions about STEM: creativity. We heard from a few folks who talked about finding unique ways to express themselves, even if it wasn't through those traditional artistic mediums.
I'm thinking about that entrepreneur who finds his creative outlet in building businesses and solving those complex problems, or that MD PhD student who uses those visual aids to process and retain information.
They're both great examples of how creativity can manifest in all sorts of ways. It's not just about painting or sculpting or writing poetry. It's about thinking differently, approaching challenges in a new way, finding those innovative solutions.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important message, especially for young people who might not see themselves as creative in the traditional sense. Creativity is everywhere. It's about finding those outlets that spark your passion and allow you to express yourself in a way that feels authentic.
Okay, shifting gears one last time, I want to touch on something that's really important for those just starting out their careers: managing risk and making those sound financial decisions.
Oh yeah, that's huge. It's about developing those financial literacy skills early on and making those smart choices that will set you up for success in the long run.
Like that entrepreneur, he talked about the importance of analyzing those numbers, understanding cash flow, and making those data-driven decisions rather than just going with your gut or getting caught up in the hype.
And he also talked about the importance of leveraging your resources. Whether it's hiring an assistant to free up your time or investing in assets that will appreciate in value over time.
It's about thinking strategically, making those smart choices that will help you achieve your long-term financial goals. It's about recognizing that financial well-being is not just about making money, it's about managing your resources wisely and building that solid foundation for the future. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about having that long-term vision and making those decisions that will support your goals, both personally and professionally.
And you know what really struck me? How many of these folks talked about wanting to make a positive impact on the world, to use their skills and talents to serve others. It wasn't just about personal success, it was about something bigger than themselves, like that anesthesiology resident who talked about how fulfilling it is to make a difference in patients' lives.
It's so inspiring to hear that, right? That sense of purpose, that desire to contribute to something larger than themselves.
It really is. And it reminds us that success isn't just about individual achievement. It's about using those talents and skills to make a difference in the world.
Absolutely. It's about finding that purpose, that passion that drives you to make a positive impact. And it's something we can all strive for, regardless of our chosen field.
Well said. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive, and there's still so much to unpack. As we move into the final part, I'm really curious to hear what's resonated most with you.
Me too.
Oh,
What are those key takeaways that have really stuck with you?
yeah.
And more importantly, what actions can we take, inspired by these stories, to create those positive changes in our own lives and in the world around us? What do you think?
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into what it means to really thrive in STEM, I keep coming back to this idea of community, finding your tribe, that place where you feel supported and understood. It came up again and again in these interviews.
Yeah, it really did. And it wasn't just about networking or career advancement. These folks were talking about something much deeper, a sense of belonging, a shared purpose.
It's like that basic human need for connection, to feel seen and heard, to feel valued. And in fields like STEM, which can be so demanding and intellectually rigorous, having that support system can make all the difference.
Like that medical student at Augusta, remember? She talked about how her classmates created this amazing network of support. They helped each other through those tough exams, celebrated each other's victories, and just, were there for each other through thick and thin.
That's the power of collective support, right? It's about creating a culture where everyone feels empowered to ask for help, to share their struggles, to celebrate each other's successes. And it's not just about receiving that support.
Right. It's about actively contributing to that community.
Exactly. Being that person who lifts others up, who offers a helping hand, who creates that ripple effect of kindness and encouragement. We all have something to offer, whether it's expertise or just a listening ear.
Absolutely. And when we invest in those relationships, we create a stronger, more vibrant community for everyone. And this makes me think about how we can foster that sense of belonging for those who might feel marginalized or underrepresented in STEM. We need to create spaces where everyone feels welcome and valued, regardless of their background.
That's a really crucial point. It's about challenging those stereotypes and biases that can make it difficult for some folks to see themselves as belonging in these fields. It's about building a more inclusive STEM community where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
I think that story from the law student at Howard really highlights that. He talked about the importance of having that Africana lens and recognizing those contributions of Black individuals.
It's a powerful reminder that representation matters. When we see people who look like us achieving success, it expands our sense of what's possible. It inspires us to pursue our own passions.
And it challenges that narrow definition of who belongs in STEM. It's a message that needs to be heard everywhere, not just in universities, but in companies and communities in our homes.
I agree. It's about recognizing that everyone has something unique to contribute. And when we tap into that collective brilliance, we all benefit.
We've talked a lot about finding your tribe, building that supportive community. But another key takeaway for me is the importance of being proactive, taking ownership of your journey and not waiting for opportunities to just appear. Like that engineer who hit a roadblock and found a creative solution by borrowing from an auto body shop.
He didn't let the traditional system hold him back. He found a way to make things happen. Or how about that CEO who left his comfortable corporate job to create a company that aligned with his values?
I love those stories. They're all about resourcefulness, thinking outside the box, and creating your own destiny. They didn't wait for permission, they just went for it.
Exactly. It's about having that vision and finding a way to make it happen, even when there are obstacles in your path.
And sometimes those unconventional paths are the ones that lead to the most incredible destinations, right?
Absolutely. Speaking of facing challenges, I was really struck by how many of these folks talked about embracing failure as a learning opportunity. Not being afraid to make mistakes, but actually using those experiences to grow and improve.
Like that anesthesiology resident. He was all about seeking feedback, learning from his mistakes, and constantly trying to improve. He wasn't afraid to admit when he didn't know something, and he saw every challenge as a chance to learn.
And remember the MD-PhD student. He was so passionate about asking questions, even the ones that might seem silly or obvious. He knew that real learning requires humility. You have to be willing to admit when you don't know something.
Like, expertise isn't about being perfect. It's about embracing that learning process, being open to feedback, and always striving to do better.
And creating a culture where mistakes are seen as opportunities, not failures, where everyone feels comfortable experimenting and taking risks,
Totally. And I think that's such an important message, especially in fields like STEM, where the stakes can feel so high. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to stumble. What matters is that you keep learning, keep growing, keep pushing yourself.
Well said. Now, it's easy to get caught up in the highlight reel of success and feel a little intimidated by all the amazing things these folks have accomplished. But what's truly inspiring is not their achievements, but their mindset, their approach to life and learning.
That's what we can all learn from. That curiosity, the resilience, the dedication, the willingness to collaborate and support others. These aren't qualities you're born with. They're skills that can be developed and honed.
It starts with those small steps, seeking out a mentor, asking a tough question, embracing a new learning opportunity, reaching out to someone who needs support. It all adds up.
Those small actions create a ripple effect, not just in our own lives, but in the lives of those around us. And who knows what we can accomplish when we combine our efforts. It's pretty amazing to think about.
It really is. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a challenge. Think about one specific action you can take this week, inspired by these interviews. What can you do to move closer to your goals, to embrace those challenges, to contribute to a more inclusive and supportive community?
It's about taking those insights and turning them into action. It's about creating that positive change, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us. What legacy do you want to leave? What impact do you want to make?
The journey starts now.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.